Hey guys, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Andre Seegers, and this time we're joined by Derek Binner and Ash Paulson to discuss all of our hands-on time with Splatoon at E3 2014. So let's get started. Alright guys, so one of the surprise games that Nintendo announced, for E3 was Splatoon, and we got to play a fair amount of it. I think most of us did at least. And this is a very unusual game. I mean, for one, it's a shooter from Nintendo, but for two, it's not really a shooter. I mean, you are shooting things, and there are people involved, but you're shooting paint. And it's more about, instead of shooting someone, it's more about, taking control of an area by painting all the surfaces you can. Which adds a really interesting dynamic to the game. So let's go start off with your guys' overall impressions of it. So let's go start off with you, Derek. What did you think of this game?
I absolutely loved it. I was, when I saw the concept, I was like, oh, this looks neat. This could be good. And then I got to play it, and I was like, I don't know, something about it just really drew me in. And I'm not much of a multiplayer guy, especially competitively. I'll play, but I don't really get that into it. But there was something about this game and the way it's set up that I just really enjoyed. And maybe it's the fact that I came in first place both times that I played it. That could be trying to jading me a little bit, or making me a little bit more lenient towards this game. But no, playing it, I had fun. I picked up the controls quite well. And I don't know, just everything about it just sort of clicked for me. I really liked it.
Yeah, I felt much the same way. It was kind of one of the surprise standout favorites for me of E3, and not only was it not expected for Nintendo to announce a game like that, but it was really fun. Like I remember you and I played it together, Andre, and we had a great time. And it was immediately accessible in kind of that that Nintendo way. It was the controls took a little getting used to, but once I kind of figured them out, I was having a great time. I like the idea that you're not actually trying to kill the other people on the team so much as trying to splatter their whole area in your color of paint. Mm-hmm. It kind of made things a little different than the typical multiplayer shooter, and I enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun just kind of creating my own pathways because when you're in your own color paint, you can turn into a squid and swim through the paint at a faster speed while at the same time recharging your ink. And it's a smart mechanic, and it works really well, and it's just very natural. And I really had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the thing about the game, is just how good it all feels. It's such a weird concept, painting this environment and turning into a squid to swim through it. And it works and feels super good. I love turning into a squid and jumping around, jumping from puddle to puddle, if the entire area is not covered in your paint color. It just felt really good, and even the controls, felt really polished. With having the with how you aim with the gamepad, you can also aim with the right stick too. But by moving the gamepad, it actually blends it it makes it feel really accurate. And I was reading something interesting from some interview with one of the developers from the game, and the person conducting the interview had mentioned, I think it might have been Game Informer, and they mentioned that the game didn't have a targeting reticle, and it was tripping him up. And it wasn't until he mentioned it that I realized the game didn't have one at all, and I didn't have any issue like that guy did apparently.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
Right?
Yeah, me neither.
The controls worked so well for me, and having paint, you can easily see where it's going. I wasn't quite sure how he got lost, but it's kind of a testament for me to the controls that you didn't need it.
The only issue I came across with the controls is, since it was all motion based, up and down worked just fine, but I found it was getting off-centered when I was moving left and right. So I kept having to sort of readjust my body in order to get it turned in the right way.
Well, I think that's what the right stick is for, though. You can use that to aim too, and you can use that to recenter yourself easily.
Yeah, I didn't know that at the time, but
so what you're saying is that your body wasn't ready.
Not
Reggie would be so disappointed.
It never is. No. I mean, that was really the only issue. Otherwise, I was doing just fine. I had no issues. Everything just sort of clicked. I mean, the whole idea that as you were saying, Ash, spraying ink, turning into a squid, and going along the thing, going along the whatever you can spray ink on is just really intuitive. I mean, in things that you like, oh, I wonder if I could do this. Usually you can. Like, you'll come to a fence and there'll be a gated fence where you can spray ink on the other side, and that's how you get on the other side of the fence, is spray it on the other side, transform into a squid, go on the other side. And you can even do this by go up walls and whatnot. So there's a lot of freedom here.
Yeah, no, there really is. And I found that one of my favorite tactics for beating the other team turned out to be you have these paint grenades you can use. You can actually charge up your gun and lob a grenade instead of just spraying paint. That, of course, depletes all your paint reserves for a limited amount of time, so you can't, just use them over and over again. But instead of kind of charging in, I found that I kind of preferred staying on the outskirts of the firefight and then just lobbing paint grenades into the enemy area and just, splattering paint everywhere. So it's kind of a safer way to add to your team's, overall area of paint. And it really is just friendly to a lot of different play styles and strategies, and it's all very fun and intuitive, and I really can't wait for this game to come out.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with all of that. With that said, I do have some concerns. Namely, I just wonder how much mileage you can get out of this concept. I had a really good time with it. I'm just not sure that there's a ton of depth there. I don't know. Do you guys have thoughts on that?
I'm actually not too worried about the variety of content in the final game, because as we know, it's a 2015 release, and usually that indicates that what we're seeing in E3 is really not indicative of the final product in terms of everything that's going to be in there. So they have plenty of time to add more maps, more characters with different abilities, more weapon styles, just more gameplay mechanics in general. So I think it's early enough that I'm not too worried about it being shallow or getting old too quickly, because I feel like that they have a lot of time to add more stuff.
Well, that's a good one. Do you think they'll have different characters with different abilities? Because everyone, I think, in the demo we played, all played the same. So that was my impression, that everyone would play the same. But do you think they might expand upon that, where you can choose characters and with different abilities?
I think it's possible. I mean, we already know that they're building a single-player campaign for it, so I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility they could be adding different characters. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be a fully fledged single-player campaign, so that's already going to add some content to it.
Oh, I didn't realize that they were making a single-player campaign. I hadn't heard that yet.
Well, I think they just said, yeah, they're going to do something single-player. I don't think they specified, so it could just be. I mean, it just might be using the existing maps, for instance, but hopefully they'll do something more elaborate. Yeah, I don't even know what kind of story they would come up with to explain what's going on.
I don't know. The closest I can come up with, and I don't even know if you guys have ever played this game or not. I know I haven't. I just heard about it. The Blob, where you kind of basically the same basic content where you use paint to fill things in, but that was sort of like coloring things. It wasn't really just splattering paint everywhere to conquer things. So I'm not quite sure exactly what they could do for a single player campaign.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I mean, I know Nintendo Land has a single-player component, but again, that uses just the same maps that you play in multiplayer as well. So, I mean, I feel like if this is going to be a standalone retail release, and, Nintendo Land has 12 different games, so that's one thing, but if this is the entire game, I feel like they're going to have to flesh it out with some additional content beyond what we saw at E3.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it really depends on how close they want to stick to your typical shooter, I guess, which, they've already proven they're not sticking that close to it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if you think of it in those terms, then you would expect a story-based campaign, maybe one a little bit lighter this time around. But there have been shooters that haven't focused on that, so then that could be what this one's doing too. What did you guys think of the gamepad usage? I saw something interesting from one of the developers, and they were saying this game could not have been made without the gamepad. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You could totally make this game without the gamepad. Don't get me wrong, it uses the gamepad fine. The motion controls work really well, as I mentioned, but you can do that on like a PS4 controller too. The only other use for the gamepad is being able to look at the whole map and seeing what parts are colored in. Seeing what team has what territory, and that's that is cool. But that's it's not something you couldn't do on the TV. Really, the only thing the gamepad's doing that works well is being able to tap on a teammate icon and launch right to them, which is useful. But again, that's something you could do pretty easily on the TV. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I mean, it's not essential, but I mean, it is nice that they're trying to use the gamepad. Maybe they're overstating things a little bit.
Little bit. Yeah, couldn't it be made without the gamepad, Derek?
It is vital. No, I mean, no, you're right. It probably there is workarounds to do it, but it is nice to be able to just look down, see where your teammates are at, pop, hit the button, join them to help the fight, or see where the holes in the in your defenses are, and seeing where you're losing paint. Because I don't think we've mentioned this at all, but even stepping in other players, the opposing team's paint will damage you. So you cannot walk on their paint at all. And so you have to be constantly laying it down, which is another purpose of the paint. It's a very cohesive idea. But as far as like only be done on the gamepad, not really.
Well, I mean, I do agree. Although I can't think of another way that you could really warp to another player's location unless you bring up like a quick menu. Because I mean, the whole mechanic is based on tapping exactly where they are, and I can't really think of an intuitive way that you could do that from your TV screen. So I do think in that sense only that maybe the gamepad is kind of required for a thing like that.
Alright, well, do you guys have any final thoughts about Splatoon or anything that we haven't mentioned yet that you want to bring up?
Really only that they just did an interview recently where they said they haven't determined yet if they're going to include voice chat in multiplayer, and I have to say I really hope they do. I know. Well, knowing Nintendo too, I wouldn't be surprised if thinking about adding voice chat really does mean no, they're not going to, or yes, but it'll be in a very limited capacity like in Mario Kart 8, meaning it'll be basically useless.
Right. Well, I mean, even if they have voice chat, we already know it will. I mean, I think it's safe to assume it will only be enabled for your friends. Yeah,
I mean, I think as long as they allowed, voice chat during gameplay, I wouldn't really mind it being limited to friends, because when it's with random people, it usually just ends up, degenerating into racist insults and sexist and all that crap. So, yeah, I mean, I think I would be okay with it being just friends as long as it's enabled during gameplay.
Now, the only thing I have left to say is that I really like how the game is structured. It allows for anybody of any skill level to jump in and feel like they're accomplishing something. Because you could be the type of player who's going after the other team and killing their players. That way your teammates can be inking up all their stuff. You could be somebody that just pushes forward to cover up all the ink on their side, and that way they have a less room to maneuver when they spawn. You could be somebody that stays back and defends your areas and makes sure your area stays inked up. And I don't know, just all the different strategies, all the different ways you can feel useful. I like that in a game, especially multiplayer. Because I think that's what gets me most, is if I don't feel like I'm contributing anything, I feel I just disengage. And that didn't happen with Splatoon. I felt like I was helping the cause at all times.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good point. I mean, it doesn't take much to contribute in some way in this game, even if it's not much. But yeah, it's really easy to just like lay down some paint and it's like, hey, look what I did. I earned this a percentage point or whatever. Yeah, no, it's a totally unique concept. I really enjoy what they're doing here, and I am looking forward to playing more of this game. Unfortunately, that may not be for a while, from the sounds of it, so. Alright, well, I think that wraps up for our Splatoon discussion, so thanks guys for watching. If you liked our discussion, make sure to like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain, which you can find links to in the description below. It's a good way to keep up to date on everything we post, and of course, keep an eye on GameXplain.com for more on Splatoon eventually, and other things gaming too. Alright, thanks guys, bye.